Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and I picked up a pair of these MATCO Adjustable Crowsfeet. This is designed for a 1/2 inch drive connector. This is a 3/8 inch drive, and then there is actually a set that has one more for a 1/4 inch drive. But I was kind of curious about how these worked in comparison with a couple of tools that I already have, especially this rigid faucet wrench or basin wrench, and also what are the options in the future, you know, for maybe EDC carry or applications I haven't even thought of. Now, some of you might not know, but on the Snap-on truck, there's often a set of, or there's a collection of used tools. It might be in a box or just stuffed under one of those tool boxes on the truck, or maybe it's even in a drawer in the truck, where the Snap-on dealer takes on used tools or stuff that other people want to get rid of, but have a little bit of money invested in them, so they get some credit towards something else. And it gives the Snap-on dealer a little bit of leeway to make that leap from one brand to another. If they kind of take a little bit of a hit on your existing non-Snap-on brand in order to get into their Snap-on brand. But anyway, these were sitting there. I was working out a deal on some other stuff, so I went ahead and got them. And I had seen things like this before. Go way back. Here's the Craftsman clench wrench. This thing, with very little traction up here. Got some glue on my hands. Traction up here makes this, a nice kind of concept, but, its execution is a little thin. Made in USA. This is one I've used a ton. This is a rigid basin wrench. Old school, basically, I can adjust it to different lengths. And it's designed, shrink it back down to show you if you haven't used one of these, to reach up underneath a sink and then grab maybe a faucet bolt, something like that, so you can tighten it or loosen it. It might be a set screw, might be or a set nut to anchor the faucet. Could be the water line to that faucet. There's all kinds of things. This just flips over for on and off. Real low tech, real simple design. Kind of a box. You've got a sliding handle here, for turning one way or the other. But I have often gone to something else. Here's a Snap-on, basically a adjustable wrench that I can use with a 3/8 inch driver, or I might go to somewhere on here. Yeah, this is a standard crow's foot. I've got a set of Craftsman. Most of the time I need a crow's foot, it's SAE or USA or fractional or whatever we call it, non-metric sizing, but that can come in quite handy. So let's take a closer look at these two. I do have this Blue Point, which is kind of an option here. This is 3/8 drive, and it's a ratcheting, reversible, double connection here. That's important. These are not. A lot of I've noticed a lot of these auto crow's feet or adjustable crow's feet do also have a drive point on the side. I kind of wish these did. But anyway, these occasionally come in handy. It's usually real obscure jobs that require something like that. But let's take a look at it. The size range here is 8 to 17 millimeters. So you're looking at this, basically. Here's an 8 and 17. So you've got a huge range if this actually works. And what I've noticed is the smallest doesn't work that well and the largest doesn't work that well. But it's got a nice sweet spot where it actually does grab and allow you kind of a ratcheting effect that keeps it going. So you don't have to keep pulling it off and setting it back on. So in essence, it looks like this. If I hook this on and it centers itself, now it's kind of got the good part of the lag bolt there. You can see that I can rotate this back and forth. I've found that if I'm not careful, it can walk out to the end like that until it finally pops free. But if I really work at it, you know, keeping it centered, it actually works great. And in most cases, I realized I could just use this as almost an EDC, you know, 8 to 17 inch wrench. Now this is smaller than 8. If I grab my 8 here, you can see that the 8 is vastly larger than that. However, if I work at this a little bit, I can get this to grab, especially if I add a little pressure up at the top. So even though this is probably a 1/4 inch metal screw, if I work at it, see that? I can get this to work. So it might go outside its range if you add a little thumb pressure or finger pressure. The larger one here, this is 14 to 32 or 9/16 to 1 1/4, which is actually really close to this 180 millimeter pliers wrench. If I actually measure that with a use my new Tough Built, I'm testing these out, Tough Built tape measure here. What I'm looking at here is about just a hair under 1 1/4. So it's really close to the advertised 1 1/4 size here, just for reference. But this is a 1/2 inch drive, works great with a breaker bar. So I've got my breaker bar here, and now I've got a pretty significant wrench. And with the reason I might use a breaker bar instead of, say, a ratchet is simply because it holds it in place. Whereas you get it if you put this on a ratchet, like this 1/2 inch here, and then start working with it, and then it starts moving, you have to kind of readjust it to make sure that it stays lined up for how you want it. So I actually prefer these on breaker bars. There are some other options. I've been playing around, wondering if there was some advantage to, say, a swivel head ratchet, where you could grab something, you know, just like what I'm looking at here with this rigid, you know, this rigid thing, or if I want to be able to, you know, maybe like spin it on and then switch to longer leverage. I haven't found anything that requires that yet, but that might be the answer, you know, especially for basin stuff, because I can switch back and forth. Basin is a generic, I'm just using that as a term for any bathroom fixture, kitchen fixture, stuff like that. But I know there are a lot of brands that are sold that are very similar to these. There are a lot of you know, traditional crowfeet out there. There are kind of adapters for different kinds of crowfeet. But I thought I'd give these a shot. I hadn't used a set, but I have seen this design on kind of like other EDC wrenches. So, you know, there's some potential here. And one thing I thought about is making a tiny breaker bar that actually fits on one of these. So I'm playing around with that idea. That's why I kind of wished that I could actually plug an extension or something into the back of it, because then I know I would already have that. These don't have that. If you have a choice, I think that's a big deal to get that kind of a connector. But overall, you get quite a bit of leverage here, even out of a small one. You know, this is here's a comparison. So I showed you the 8 to 17. On this big one, you're looking at what they advertise here is a 14 to 32. Well, this is a 14 and a 32, you know, to see that kind of comparison. So if you actually have that much adjustability in a handheld wrench that can be of almost any length, you know, there's some significant advantage to that if it holds the fastener. And that's what I'm showing you here. It actually, a quality one of these does hold the fastener. So I could probably drive in a lag bolt here. Take me a while. You know, it's a lot of work, and probably be a lot easier if I had some additional leverage here. But that's got some potential. So that's why I'm playing with them. If you've got experience with something like these, let me know, and if you found some unique uses. And that's really why I kind of wanted them, because I bet they'll fit in somewhere where I'm normally struggling, say, you know, under a sink or some kind of a plumbing fixture where this thing would come into play. I did realize this is really loose, and I always thought that was not very effective. It was a loose fit, didn't quite hang on near as tight as I thought it should. You know, compared to these new ones especially. Sometimes I can get it to easily grab. But these also are really strong. So whereas this might allow you to slide something in without much resistance, these you may not. It might fight your wrench. So they put a kind of a thumb ramp on the side here that really makes a big difference. Get that focused for you. And then something like this, because it goes down, you know, supposedly 14 millimeter. I think it'd be ideal if they made one, say, in, I don't know, maybe an 8 to 17. Wouldn't that be about right for a car? What else? What do you need outside that 8 to 17 range? Anyway, with that, Doc out.